nutrients, the juices, the sugars are running up through the outer layers of the bark of the tree, and so the Lenape would, so they would put a device in there, and I apologize, I can't remember. The sugars are flowing, and it takes 32 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup.
Oh my God.
Because they have to be, that's true. I don't know how it was in those days, but the impurities have to be boiled out. This is going to be further down. So this is called jewelweed. Look at this lovely flower in shape. And because of that, hummingbirds love these flowers, love these plants. Nice nectar. Jewelweed is very important. It likes wet areas, and it's usually growing, I shouldn't get so close to the edge, as a natural antidote to poison ivy. Take the leaves, crush the leaves. Also, the stems have the liquid inside as well, and use that as a poultice on the poison ivy. It could also be used to treat other things. We don't need to go there. Hemorrhoids. I'll stop there. So we have a lot of trees that fall down on the rocky ridges. We're coming down this one, we'll be heading up in the second one. And the reason for that is their roots can't go down deep enough. Ever try to grow anything in rocks? Anybody here farm on rocks? I once had a little girl who said, oh, I could grow in rocks. No, you can't. So that's the other reason the forest is here. The Lenape wouldn't do any farming. Mushrooms are the fungi growing there that are helping this to decay. This is what's falling from it. All over the ground, you're going to see a lot more because we're going to be going down. This is a sweet gum tree, and we're going to be going down the sweet gum tree. Anyway, these are last year's seed balls, or quote-unquote fruit. I don't like to say fruit because if there's a little kid, they think it's fruit. It just means after it's been pollinated, this is what results. And it has all these spiky cone-like things on it, and they've popped open, but that's where all the seeds are inside. Are you guys familiar with the sweet gum tree? Yeah, I used to get the leaves a bit confused with the maple, so this is good. Here's the maple leaf. Points on each of the 5 fingers. This one has tiny serrated edges you can barely see, so that's the main difference. And these guys are the seed balls or the fruit from the sweet gum tree. Who knows what contains the seeds or what's the fruit of a maple tree? Yeah, that's right. Those things that are sticky, stick on your nose, the seeds are actually inside the sticky part there. Another senior moment. In any case, so they could tap into this. I guess it tasted sweet, and they could probably use this in addition to the maple syrup to sweeten their dried meat. But the botanical name of this tree is liquid amber, something else. So the liquid amber is easy to remember because the sap is liquid and it's amber. So I like that. These trees have the most beautiful colors in the fall. When we think of trees turning in the fall, we think of gold, yellow. These guys have all different color leaves. They'll have gold on there. They'll have burgundy. They'll have rust-colored leaves. So the sweet gum trees are really, really very beautiful trees. You never saw me do that, right? So something was eating this leaf. But I have to point it out. Look at the size of this leaf. Yeah, what tree did this come from? A tulip tree. So instead of having a pointy end or rounded leaf, it's kind of indented at the top, and maybe if you were in second to the center to make a huge canoe. And we're not talking for your Sunday afternoon, let's go out, we'll have a romantic canoe ride, or maybe we'll take the kids with us. We're talking about the extended family. These have to be huge because these trees can go to be 150 feet tall, and they naturally drop their branches from 80.
What else would I make a tulip tree out of?
So they go to the sweet gum and the tulip trees, they would use the bark for the sides of the wigwam. Stringy roots, and I know for a fact that a linden tree, that's the property of linden trees or tilia trees, they have those stringy roots, and they probably would have used that from some other tree as well. So the reason I stopped here is this is called, smell it. Spice bushes are a really important shrub in the forest. They're an indication of fertile soil. So when George Washington was going to have his farm in Virginia, he saw these spice bushes. That's where he wanted to locate his farm because it meant the soil was very fertile. So I'm sorry, I couldn't get any spices from it. She has been attacked by termites about 3 years ago. I was going to
Nossa! Olha!
Do you see you have these really deep lines in here? And then we have other going this way, but you have some that are coming this way. So what made this, the glaciers came through our area about 3 times. And the last time it was the Wisconsin Glacier, that was about 12 to 14,000 years ago. And as it's starting to melt and the rocks come tumbling down and so on, they create these indentations in the rocks called striations. So do you see the lines coming in this direction? Yeah, so that's as the glacier, it was breaking up all the rocks and you get the little pebbles. And this glacier ended at the southern end of Long Island, in Brooklyn, Coney Island, and down parts of New Jersey have this, what's called glacial till. That's where all that volcanic action, millions of years ago. And so what happens when the rocks and the minerals get hot and then they kind of fold over like this, and so that's the other stripes, and you might see some marble or granite in there. If you see little sparkly things, couple sparkly things, later on the sparkly things you see is mica. Mostly in our area we have Fordham gneiss and Manhattan schist in the Bronx. And Manhattan schist is the main bedrock in the There's a rock that's sitting over here. It's not that big. We have a larger one in the They are called Glacial Erratics, and we have them throughout the garden. The interesting thing about that is it's just sitting on top of another rock or on top of the soil. It's not embedded in the soil, and it's not way deep down where the bedrock would be. So it's called a glacial erratic because its mineral composition is different from all the other rocks in the area. And my friend researched it and found that actually belongs in New Jersey. It's from the Palisades. It's the same mineral composition. That rock is not going anywhere. We used to have metal
Deixa eu ver esses ferrinhos aqui. Antigamente era corredorzinho que tinha um negócio para as pessoas segurar para passar para cá. Não tem nada a ver com a história que ela tá falando.
Besides fire engines.
Water.
River. Okay, this is the Bronx River. This is the Bronx River. This is the other reason why that is a forest that's never been cut down is incredible. And because of that, we have many graduate students going to the PhDs, things like that, and there'll be scientists coming here to study the effects of pollution on an urban farm. This is so unique. This is the largest uncut forest in the metropolitan New York area.
Alto, né? Olha lá.
And these are American elm trees. Very rare to see them because the Dutch elm disease came into the New York City area back in the 1930s. It's a fungus that's carried by beetles. We don't know how it got into the country, but this is why. And you guys know, when you travel back home to Brazil, they ask you, do you have any plants? Do you have any food? We have to be careful what comes in from other countries. You don't know what you're taking out. You don't know what you're bringing in. So this came in, again, we don't know, did it come in on firewood? Did it come in on, it doesn't matter. Those beetles got in, they carry the fungus, they get into the trees, and the trees can't survive. There's no treatment for it. So picture in the 1900s, outside of Central Park on Fifth Avenue, rows of these elm trees, and these trees are huge, huge trees. Beautiful draping this trail, but beautiful natural draping, like a vase, the way the branches come down, outside of Central Park. Had to all be cut down. There are still some inside of Central Park. We have many here. We have one that was on that other trail where we stopped and that we were talking about the sweet gum tree and tulip tree. So we had taken the other trail. There's a huge elm on that trail. That's got to be about 300 years old. The ones that are out in public view, there's several in the azalea garden and a couple on the roadway. Those are inoculated every 3 years with a fungicide to protect them from the careful the management practices we would like in the forest because you can't come in and do any of you know what this gray green stuff is? So we like lichen because it's a sign of clean air. So everybody inhales deeply. So don't panic if you see lichen. If you see lichen there. They don't have clean air in Los Angeles. If you're in a Kentucky coal mine, you're not going to see lichen growing because the air is clean. So we're in the forest, breathe deeply, right? Okay, so look at a children's program back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Oh wait, it's even around today. The opening of the original program, all the characters and the kids would skip across this bridge. Does anybody know that program? What program? Sesame Street.
Oh.
This is where they all skipped across the bridge. And so the other reason that we're here, we're going to look on this side of the bridge first.
É?
Then it's going to push.
So everybody in New York City, when you turn on your capital, you have a little bit of the Bronx River. If you look at the Bronx, you definitely have the Bronx River water for you. In any case, let's take a look at this side. And let's talk for a little bit more, because right in the middle is our main feature on the river that everybody loves. That's all that nice stuff.
Yeah.
I told you the property, they wanted to make it look like the
Oh.
There's a couple of white rectangles or squares. They're actually suspended on a rope across, and that's for people canoeing, and it has a skull and crossbones that says, take your canoe out, danger ahead. So there is a place for them to take out their canoes. They walk all down underneath the bridge, and I'm going to show you at where we end our tour is where they come back with their canoes to put them back in the water. Okay, so I'll just briefly say over the years, systems in the late 1800s, 1900s, I can't believe we're going to pay for them. We had the outhouses, so the river got very polluted. And tires. 20,000 tires. I can't remember how many refrigerators, stoves, and appliances. People are jumping in cars. When my friends and I do a history of the Bronx River tour, I have all these pictures of the cars and the tires that they were taking out. So when in the 1980s, everyone got tired of all the pollution. Prior to that, the people in the Bronx were complaining at the turn in the early 1900s of all the sewage that was coming down, and that was the impetus to start the sewer system in New York City. Anyway, all these communities got together. Now the organization has morphed into it. You don't want to go swimming in it. You don't want to go wading. We have had wildlife control. So once the Lenape only lasted 60 to 80 years when the colonists arrived because they brought disease with them. All the resources were being depleted. The first shipment to Europe had over 8, forget how many wildcat skins, bear skins. So the forest resources were being depleted. The Lenape, between depletion of resources, disease, measles, smallpox, they left the area, they died, they were killed, etc. So very, very sad story. And it has been cleaned up so much the first beaver came back. Who knew we had beavers in the Bronx? About 12 or 14 years ago, and they named it Jose in honor of the local councilman who funded the initial cleanup to begin the Bronx River restoration, Jose Serrano. Then about 5 years later, Jose is joined by a friend. Wait a second, what are we going to name the friend? Let's have a contest. Kids were voting because the second beaver was named Justin. As in Justin Beaver. I'm not making that up. But in any case, so it is clean, but as I said, I wouldn't go raiding it or anything like that. But the Bronx River Alliance is working on to have all these greenways. Okay. So you have to get up close because I want you to see what's going on in this tree. I mean, I'm never sure which tree to stop at. So when we first got the property, it was very impressive. The forest was called the Hurricane Gloria. I can't remember, that was a long time ago, but Hurricane Gloria blew in from Long Island, and all these little insects came in. You see these little white fuzzy things here? They're called woolly adelgic. They're enclosed in that little white fuzzy thing, kind of reminds you of fat aphids. But inside is where the little insect is. They suck all the juices out of the needles, and within a couple of years, the tree is going to die. So if you look, all these dead branches, we can't treat it in here. There's no natural predators to these. Insects will help. But again, this is what the whole forest was like, and we have hardly any of these left. If a baby grows up, one of these guys as well. If you see a baby within a couple of years, that will. It's actually a petal from the flower of the tulip tree. I don't know if you ever seen. They have really the nicest flowers. So they're dropping the petals now. And I probably won't find it. But in the winter time, what's left inside the flower is cardinal who winters here. It has a little protein at the end of it. I'm not seeing any here. We're not going to see it. If you're out on the roadway, you might, but it's kind of hard here. And this is an overflow from our wetlands area. And usually this time of year, it's starting to dry out. And we've had so much heavy rain. It's really a little higher than I'm used to seeing.
That's sick, no?
And what happened during Hurricane Sandy was this. It was a black oak or white oak, it doesn't matter. But well over 150 years old fell and was kind of blocking the flow, so they definitely had to cut it so that the flow would continue. But when we had Hurricane Ivan this past year, because these are new boards they have in here, they're probably gradually replacing some of these boards, and they redid this particular bridge after Hurricane Sandy. This whole trail on the forest was closed for many, many weeks, and when you have these bad floods and so on, sometimes you come to the garden and they close trails. Those of you who come regularly, don't try to go on the trails when they're closed, for your safety.
You didn't cover this forest?
No, we went to that looks as though towards there.
So picture, this is what that main forest area all looked like when the garden was originally founded. Look at the size of this.
Olha a altura da árvore.
I can't believe it's that large. I'm not used to seeing that big. The foodie area. Hold on, I have to find a new piece of iron. Okay, I'm not going to do it just because this plant is doing fine. So if I were to break off one of these leaves at that stem, you'd see white latexy type substance coming out. This is milkweed. Why do we like milkweed? What caterpillars are found on milkweed that feed on the leaves? Monarch butterflies. Ooh, milkweed, so we like that. I planted a lot. I live 10 miles north of here in Tuckahoe, not too far from the Bronx River. And so in my co-op building, I planted some milkweed and some other things, and I couldn't believe the first year we got the monarch butterflies. I couldn't believe it. It was so great. And other butterflies, so that's why it's so important to plant that. I planted butterfly weed, and we just had a couple of these guys. bathtub and you've taken a bath and then you unplug the drain, how the water swirls around. So you call this a pothole. That's what happens here. The water from the drain can be swirling around the bathtub. And it looks like we're going to have to be replacing. Ooh, we've got termites in there. Looks like we're going to have to be replacing the toilet with a bunch. The forest was considered no man's land during the Revolutionary War. And after the Revolutionary War, the landowners who were loyal to Great Britain lived on that side of the garden. The property was sold off so the city could start paying expenses. The rebels and the neutral people lived on this part, where I met you. And so this was no man's land. That's where the forest stayed. And then the family that bought the property afterwards was the Lorillard family. They loved the forest so much they would drive their horses through the forest. They didn't have that mansion, 43-room summer mansion at the Central Rose Oil at the end. Okay, so remember, this is back in the late 1700s, exactly the Revolutionary War. That's what people did in those days. In any case, there was a mill where we saw the dam. The mill was just a little bit further than that. When they moved up here, they built a second dam where we're going to exit the forest, and this, not second dam, second mill, and then this was the third mill. This is the only mill remaining. It is a New York City and national landmark. The stone was quarried from the area. It's not made out of marble, but the stone was from the area. And back in the day, we used to have we still have curator offices in there. When I first started volunteering here, I was working with our community outreach program and all the community gardens, and their offices were up there. Well, when they renovated it again, we had to move to another area, but there's still curators up there, and now the two lower levels are all for catering and parties and things like that. They do have member events here. We have I can't wait to do that one. And so it looks like they're getting ready for a wedding. The last thing I want to mention is right behind the person who's got on the dog with the stand. If you can see to the left of this big tree, go in about 10 feet. You're going to see there's like a cement round thing. That's one of the original grinding stones they found in the basement when they did the last renovation. It's a little hard to see from here. And come back in the winter when there's no leaves on the trees or early spring. I actually like to do early spring tours in here because you get to see the bones of it. In any case, we've got some invasive plants. So from time to time we have volunteer groups come in here to help us clean up these invasives from here. And they pull it all the way from where they take them out by the waterfall alongside there and come up over the bridge and then bring them down here. It used to be a sign, some places it's some sign that says community portage. It might be able to see it, and they go down there, and that's a lovely area. The river is very calm, it's nice. Go down because it is really nice if you do that. Those of you who want to go to the Rose Gardens, turn left, you walk up the hill, you'll be there in 5 minutes. Okay?
All right.
I'm heading out this way. Those of you who want to go back, you turn right.
É aqui que vem o pessoal vinha de canoa aqui, parava aqui para passar. Já estão jogando sujeira.